I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. CAVIL'S, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. CAVIL'S. We're inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is on assignment. We'll see if we can get him in here maybe in segment 2. Charles Bishop is on a plane headed to Jackson so he can be prepared to do his color and play-by-play work. So I guess he's graduated. So we won't take it on him that much. But I have... No, not the end of the report. That was yesterday, but it's been postponed because of the weather, and it'll be postponed next week. I don't know what we'll blame it on next week, but we'll get back to you.
Come up with something. Yeah, you come
right. But with that being said, we'll dive a little bit in cheat code, if you would, do a little bit of the Indy report since I have the Indy guy. That's David Rose and his team, as they go in there and give you some insight between A&T, the Aggies, Hampton, the Pirates, and Tennessee State, the Tigers. So we'll touch a little bit of it in there. But, Thursday we do our mid-major report. So we'll give you a little bit about that and give you some updates of what's going on in that world in terms of those things. But welcome to episode 616 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU diaspora, all things HBCU sports, for institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs, and quite frankly, the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, with Mike Washington snuck in here for a little bit of time. Appreciate you, Mike. We thought we wouldn't get you to the second segment, but look at you. Ready to go, fighting that cold weather up in those parts. It's my understanding you brought it to us, so we're a little bit angry at you. We can do without it. So with that,
y'all can take all the pain. Y'all take all the pain. I gotta do it.
David. Yes, if you can, so it gets used to it. But we don't appreciate you sharing that with us either.
It's a myth too, just so you know. You never can get used to it, Dr. CAVIL'S. Just so you know.
Good to know. Good to know.
All right.
Well, I'm your host, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, as well as David Rose today. We're filming from our home studios in Signal, sending a signal live, I should say, to KCOH 1230 AM, studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer. It's multi-Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, David, how are you doing today?
Pretty good, Dr. CAVIL'S. Part of the reason why I didn't have a show yesterday is because I was flying to Chicago. I'm out here competing in video games this week. So it's a fun route. Today is casual day. Tomorrow is tournament time.
So I knew you did the gaming, but I didn't know you did it that seriously where you fly for competition. So
I'm all right. I do okay. I'm not winning no money. It's for the thrill of it right now. It's the thrill of the competition right now.
Well, call me back.
I don't have enough time.
Money. That way I can hit you up.
Nah. You gotta. The story is,
don't forget
be in the top 8 to make. Oh, I get it. You got to be in the top 8 to make cash, but you got to be in the top 3 to make real cash.
Wow. It's always something to it. It's always something to it. The height. The professionals are professionals, whether it's NBA, MLB, the show, as they like to say, or the NFL. You got to be big time to really get the big time cash. I see.
All I'm going to say is this: on my way out to come here for this show, I ran into one of those professionals. He beat me pretty good.
Wow.
There's 700 people in the tournament, in the Street Fighter tournament, and he's the 18th seed. To put it
Is that what y'all playing? Is that what y'all playing? Street Fighter?
I'm playing Street Fighter, Tekken, Soul Calibur. I'm doing a couple.
Who do you have in Street? Who do you have in Street Fighter? What's the character?
I use the Sumo. I use Honda. I use
You
Honda.
use see, I would what's the name? Is it Ryo or something like
For
that?
Ryu, yeah, my Ryu's
Ryu.
not ready. My Ryu's not ready. I was doing Cavs the other day. He ain't ready. He
See,
ain't ready. He ain't ready
that's
for tour.
I'm
He
too
ain't ready.
old school. See, I use Ryu
No,
every
no.
time. That's my
Well, Honda's an
go-to.
OG too, man. Yeah, Honda's an OG too. Ryu's not ready.
I'm just mad because Mike can actually hold this conversation. That's a whole different.
I love it.
I use
I love it.
That brother is much talent. You see why I call him Big Brother. He is talented.
Man, Ryu is the dude, man. But I agree. His kicks are a little bit too slow. So,
with that being said, before I go to you, Mike, I'm gonna stick with you, David, to turn this into a HBCU framework. What are your thoughts in terms of where HBCU are at this time in terms of esports, whether it's on just the team or academically program building? Obviously, we got one at Johnson C. Smith. We have some small ones here and there. Dabble in it, I guess, is the best word to say it, outside of Johnson C. Smith that has a formal program. What are your thoughts about that? Benedict has one as well.
Yeah, I think it's something that we really need to consider investing in. I believe it's the next frontier. I know at this show and a lot of our shows, we focus on football and athletics and things of that sort. But I think we're missing a big piece when it comes to esports. I know A&T has their esports team. They have a national champion right now in one of the games in Rocket League that they recently just won. They went undefeated. And I think there's a lot of opportunities there. There are opportunities there. I'm not the biggest advocate of like making it like a conference thing. I kind of want to keep it independent. The last thing I want is the NCAA involved type of thing from my perspective. But there's so many different elements when it comes to esports. There's your typical first-person shooters. There's your fighting games. There's even racing games. Like there's sports games like Madden, 2K. We had the #1 Madden player in the country at one point at A&T as well. So because a lot of these kids do this stuff in their spare time. So it's not hard to find folks with talent. Like I did an exhibition during homecoming last year.
Remember that?
I was offered prizes. So like I think it's just something that you do for fun, and then now's the opportunity to get some real money. Like Howard and Morgan made some real money last year doing sports. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of companies that want to get
$100,000 with the win.
Mm-hmm. So like I think there's a lot of good teams out there right now. I just think that we need to grow it. Like we need to get a little bit more serious with it, grow it a little bit more. But I think we're all going in the right direction. I know at A&T we're working to try to do our own type of festival, so to speak, something similar to what I'm at right now in a smaller scale. So I'm going to hopefully try to fly down for that in April once we get the ball going for that. So now it's some pretty good things.
With that being said, we're at the beginning stage where the provost has charged me working with the other deans to create a gaming program, development side of it. In terms of computer science, I work with some of the computer science professors, and I think I'm ready to take the next step to build out the program schematically and present it back to the provost in regards to his thoughts moving forward with it or not. But he's pretty serious in terms of the development side, the academic framework of what that looks like. So I'm fascinated with that, and why I was happy to have this discussion. With that being said, Big Mike, how are you doing today?
man, I'm pretty good. I'm braving this East Coast. I know my folks in Houston, Texas. They getting a little bit of snow. Don't know how to act. Everybody's making snow angels and posting it, and everybody. Man, up here is business as usual. Don't nothing shut down. I heard my rental car make sounds I've never ever heard a rental car make before.
That's not good.
I got it.
No, man, it is. It might be normal.
Man, I've lived in Minnesota for 4 years, but those cars were built for it. This rental car makes, I can't interpret the sounds that this rental car made when I tried to start it up at 6 degrees in the morning at 6 a.m. That car made so many sounds. It was almost like it was talking to me. So anyway, I'm braving it up here, doing well from New Jersey to New York to B-More to Philly, kind of covering the span in about a week and different business meetings. So other than that, doing well. I mean, this cold spell is getting everybody. So doing well. I'm a little late catching up with the basketball season with HBCU and how it's progressing. Hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, most teams will be progressing into their conference schedules if they have not already. But I'm a little behind. But man, this cold weather ain't no up here, man. Up here,
My brother, I went from Rhode Island winter to Chicago winter, and I have come to the conclusion that it is different, sir.
Yeah.
it's a whole new level. I mean,
It's different, man.
I thought I still had that Minnesota DNA when I lived there for 4 years. But man, you live back in Texas, it spoils you. Man, I get up here, I get a rental car. That car, if I could interpret what that car said, roof, 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 roof. It said, "What the hell are you trying to do? Starting me at 6 a.m." Basically, I mean, it literally said roof, 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 roof for 20 minutes. That's all it said.
He made the car sound like a hurt dog. Hey, with that
sounds like I heard it.
Into some HBCU sports talk. What's on your mind, Dave, in terms of the HBCU sporting world? What do you want to give us an update on that has your interest at this time?
Well, I mean, I'm going to talk about my Lady Aggies because they're still undefeated in conference right now.
Go ahead. It's your time, your space.
Yeah, they got a big weekend coming up. They play Monmouth this weekend. They're doing a road warrior type of situation. I think if they can clear out the field this weekend, they come back around at home and they play Charleston, we'll have a pretty good opportunity to pretty much close up this conference very soon. Because right now we're one a game ahead of one school and two, and everybody else is within two. So like if they can knock out this weekend. Now the men, on the other hand, I'm concerned about the men. The men they haven't won a conference game yet. Their last win was against the school down the road on CBS. We ain't won a game since, and I'm concerned that they might go over in the conference. I think they have
watched both of those games. I watched that game, CBS Saturday, and as you said, it was close for maybe a quarter. It seemed, was half of a half. I know that half on the men's side. And then I watched the last part of the Hampton A&T game where it looked like they were going to pull it out, and then they somehow allowed Hampton to kind of slide away with that win, is the way I'd put it. But yeah, fast.
Well, Hampton pretty much led the bulk of that game. Like I watched that game in its entirety, and Hampton was rocking it, and then all of a sudden A&T they found life, and they had a chance to win it. I just hated the sequence at the end. I felt like they fouled too early with the second foul. I felt like, they did it so immediately and it left too much time off the clock. I understood what they were trying to do. I just felt like they should have killed some clock.
No, I think that was obvious. I think the kid got a little excited and misinterpreted what the coach said because he played it right perfectly at first for the first foul.
Yeah.
And commentators, color said that. And then the second one, you could tell right after he did it, he realized, not this fast.
Not yet.
Yeah, it was too late. So
and then we fouled
that kind of season for Aggies that it's just tough right now. And they got to find a way to get some momentum to get over the hump. We'll see if we can sneak the other one, Independence, in throughout the show. But with that being said, Mike, what's on your mind in terms of HBCU sports news? What do you has your interest?
So yeah, along those lines, I think the announcement came out. I saw it across Twitter, not Twitter. I'm sorry, across IG about the CIAA men's and women's basketball tournament that celebrates the 50th year anniversary of the women's championship tournament. So it's truly, there's a lot of hoopla about it, but that announcement came out just yesterday, I guess today, at about the year our Lord, January 23rd, today at about 3 p.m. And it talks about it, and everybody knows about the CIAA tournament, but it's a legacy of a conference and the 50th anniversary of the women's basketball tournament and all the incredible athletes who shaped women's basketball. So I didn't realize that. I know many callers here, as well as yourself, Dr. Cavill, and have realized it, but I didn't realize that for the women's tournament specifically. So it's the precursor to March Madness, and it intentionally falls during the last week in February, Black History Month, of course, as one of the country's top 10 cities with the highest percentage of Black residents. So I think that's beautiful. It's in B-more for y'all. That's slang for Baltimore, and it's the perfect destination. I think just a few facts and figures for you. In 2024, the tournament generated an economic impact of 32.5 million, which supported, I think, 30 some north of 1,300 part-time, full-time jobs and generated 31 million. So I just thought that this tremendous event, and there's a whole lot of hoopla. I don't want to read everything for you, but I just thought the announcement that it's the 50th year anniversary and how it is strategically set is really important.
Good stuff. Good stuff there. I'm glad you brought that up. One of the things that the CIAA gets right, and they get a lot of things right, particularly when it comes to basketball. But the way they celebrate anniversaries is really done because they market it, they put it out there, and then they reinforce it with apparel and things of that nature. So I think they do an excellent job in terms of branding and marketing their anniversaries. Be that deep. So I'm glad you brought that up. Excellent point. And the CIAA basketball tournament is around the corner. Hard to imagine it. We're just getting started in some ways in the basketball season, and it's time to get ready for the tournaments. Wow, crazy. With that being said, let's take our first break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get into some specific talk. And guess what? We'll look a little bit at the CIAA, give you some updates of what's going on there. Ask these gentlemen what do they think about the top of the division, some of the key races. We'll get a chance to look back in and see if Virginia State and Virginia Union are still doing their things or have things changed. With that being said, let's go to our first break and come back on the other side and see what took place after last week, what's going on this week. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this first break.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Morehouse College and Tuskegee University men's basketball teams were selected to compete in the 2025 NBA HBCU Classic presented by AT&T. The fourth annual NBA HBCU Classic will be played in the Bay Area as part of NBA All-Star 2025 and will once again celebrate the rich traditions, on-court athleticism, and commitment to excellence of the HBCU community. For tickets, visit nba.com/all-star.
Compress the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Big Mike and David Rhodes. With that being said, like we're sneaking in a little bit of the Indy report. You got a little bit of the A&T. We'll probably come back and give you some updates there, but I'm gonna go with Hampton. I guess Hampton would be more synonymous with the CIAA than A&T. I know A&T was in there and partnered for a while, but they left well before Hampton. So I'm going to stick with Hampton. Hampton on the women's side not much good news to say. They're 4-13 overall, 0-6. Y'all need to be kind when y'all on your end report talking about Hampton women's basketball, and spend a lot more time with Jaguars.
I've been very kind to them because I understand they have a brand new coach there.
Yeah,
so I get it.
That's really
I get it. I get it. It's truth be told, like we talk about that record, they beat an SEC's team earlier this year.
Yeah, I'm glad. Good point that out. That you put that out there. Not many can say that. With that being said, let's look at the Southern Division. Fayetteville State, the Broncos have kind of stretched things out a little bit. Last time we talked about they were right there in the mix. They've won 3 in a row. They're at 11-6, and they put a little room, if you would, conference-wise, 6-2 overall. They're ahead of Claflin that sits in 4-3, so lost one game, but on the win side, they got 2 of them there. Were they really making a statement in terms of division? They're 3-0 in division, so it looks like Fayetteville State is doing what they do, particularly at least in the division side of stuff. Claflin is 1-0 behind them, but that's kind of your separation there. In the Northern Division, the big matchup we were talking about this past Saturday was Virginia State and Virginia Union. Virginia State got it done winning 67-60, I believe it was. So they've continued their win streak. Now they're up to 6. Virginia Union did bounce back right after that game and got a win. So they're still in the mix, if you would. Virginia Union is on top of the conference in the Northern Division at 7-1 overall. Virginia Union is 5-1. Obviously, Virginia State has the head-to-head matchup. Virginia State is 2-0 in the division side of things, while Virginia Union is 1-1. So those are kind of teams in the mix. I guess you got to give a little love to the Bowie State Bulldogs. They are just 6-2 conference-wise and 1-1 in the race, so they're right there. So you can see that still the tough part of the conference, if you allow me to use that framework, in the Northern Division, but it looks like Fayetteville State is making their statement. Dave, what are your thoughts on the CIAA from that perspective with the records teams in the top of the conference versus what you see in the Southern Division?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to watch this unfold. Virginia State is legit. Fayetteville State is legit as well. I'm curious about how if Virginia State can keep it rolling, if they can still get in the tournament as an at-large bid with that overall record of theirs as well. So it's going to be fascinating to see how they go down the stretch from that regard, being 14-4 overall. So
good stuff. Let me go to you, Big Mike. What do you think in terms of CIAA? Do you think the rest of the season is just going to be Fayetteville State in the North, or are they going to find a way to allow Claflin back in it? Or are you just sticking with the Northern Division with Virginia State, Virginia Union, and Bowie State?
No, I'm thinking, stop it. Let's stop it with Fayetteville State. Let's just stop it. Okay, so what is their record? I mean, they are 6-2 respectively. They're 3-0, and I kind of one of the things I like to look at data points wise is who they play. They beat Johnson C. Smith. They've played Shaw. They did beat Winston-Salem. But if you look at that division, and if you look at who they played, they beat folks that are not at the top of that division. Also, if you look at statistics, you look at where Fayetteville State, they're like somewhere in the middle. They're scoring 66 points a game, but they're allowing their opponents to score almost the same amount of points. So I wonder when they play the competitive teams, how they're fair. They fared well to this point, but I think I need to see a little bit more behind that curtain before we call them the pretty girl. You know what I mean? So they look good this far, but I need to see I need that curtain moved a little bit more before we're going to say, oh, she's beautiful, because I'm not seeing enough. And right now I'm going to stay with the North. If you look at who's leading the CIAA in offense, it's Bluefield State, Livingston, Virginia Union, Claflin. Claflin is number 3 or in offense and defense. Their point differential between what they're scoring and what they're allowing folks is tremendous. So I'm not enough. I haven't gone to that point to where I'm ready to call Fayetteville State the pretty lady.
Good stuff. Good stuff. When you talk about Elizabeth City State, they're trying to figure it out right now. Terms of, that's about the best I can say. Let's get over to the men's side. Virginia State and Lincoln have a big matchup out of the North this Saturday. Fascinating about that. Unfortunately, Virginia State is coming off a loss. They lost 82-67 to Bluefield State. Can they bounce back when they have that matchup at the top for Lincoln, Pennsylvania, that has won 9 straight games and looking really good? They set up in the conference at 7-0, 6-1 in terms of what they're doing, coming in with solid records, 13-5 and 12-5, respectively. You do have Bluefield State on the men's side. I know you talked about the women over there. They're 11-6, but they're just 4-3 in conference play. So they're a little bit behind there. In terms of division race, Lincoln, Pennsylvania, 2-0, and you have a couple of teams, Virginia State at 1-1. So Virginia State needs this matchup this Saturday to be interesting. Will Lincoln stretch things out and kind of stamp and say that they're going to control it moving forward, or will Virginia State get a chance to move back in the race? In the Southern Division, you have Fayetteville State. They sit at 12-6. Behind them is Clafton at 11-7. They're just 5-3 conference. So you see, again, the Northern Division is carrying things while you have that going on 4-3 in the conference race for Claflin. You do have Fayetteville State sitting at 3-0 with Claflin sitting at 1-0. So let me stick with you, Mike, in terms of the men's side. Looks like the muscle is in the Northern Division as well, as we talk about it. But the big game is Lincoln, Pennsylvania, Virginia State, I believe, particularly coming out of the Northern Division this Saturday.
Yeah, I would agree. I think the strength stays in the North. However, I'm intrigued by this Bluefield State. I mean, seriously, I'm kind of a stats guy. And if you look at, man, they're tops. And when I say tops, normally at this point of the season, statistics, you can weigh them nominally because you got to look at variability and who's strength and their strength of schedule. But Bluefield State is scoring 94 points a game. The next closest school is Virginia State, scoring at 78, 79 points. That's an order of magnitude, all nearly higher, but they're allowing their opponents, they're last in the league in defense. So I wonder what's going on with Bluefield State. But I still think that if you look at the strength, it lies in the North. If you look at the top 5, and here's how they rustle up, you got Virginia State, you got Bluefield State, and to throw in, for good measure, you could argue that, Claflin is somewhere in there, but, that's it. But I think the strength, if you look at the stats, lies in the North.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Dave, your thoughts? Men's side of things.
Yeah, the North, listen, the bottom of the North beat 2 Division I programs this season. Like, that puts in perspective how strong the North is. And they haven't even won a conference game yet within their division. And we're talking about Blue State. Lincoln, it's amazing that Lincoln keeps this ball rolling considering all the recent coaching changes and things of that sort. So it's kind of a sight to see with regards to Lincoln. If they beat Virginia State, they pretty much wrap this conference, this division up. Expect them to be the 1 seed in the tournament if that's the case. But Bluefield State got some scores, man. They got some ballers on that team based on the stats that I was looking at. And if they can figure it out defensively, they would be very dangerous in the tournament. Very dangerous.
Yep, I agree.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let's take our second break and come back on the other side. We're going to shift and head down south and go to the SIAC and see what's going on there. Clark Atlanta still rolling, or did Edward Waters make a move? We'll tell you about it after this next break. This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta CAVIL of Dr. CAVIL'S Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. CAVIL'S Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's like a loop machine. Looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics? There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
Greetings, Panthers. My name is Roland Austin, and I'm one of the directors at the 1876 Athletic Foundation. The 1876 Athletic Foundation was formed to promote the success of all 343 student athletes. Our overall goal is to fund scholarships for all of our student athletes. We ask that you help us in achieving this goal by donating to the 1876 Athletic Foundation via the QR code below or 1876.foundation. Your generous donation will help us continue to assist the needs of all of our Panther athletes. Thanks, and go.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. CAVIL'S with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with the professors. We got Professor Rhodes, Professor Washington giving us some insight on the mid-major division. I'm interested about the SIAC. We're going to start with women basketball because chivalry is not dead for us. Let's look at the West Division. It'll be interesting when you got the top three teams facing off over the next 2 weeks. You have Miles coming in at 11-3 overall. Lane behind them at 11-5, and Tuskegee a little further back at 9-8. But in the conference race, it's much tighter when you look at the fact that you have Miles at 8-2, Lane at 7-3, and Tuskegee just hair back at 6-4. Miles has won 8 of their last 10, while you have Lane and Tuskegee having the same affair in their last 10, both being 6-4. With that being said, this Saturday you have the you have the Tuskegee matchup, I should say, in Fairfield on campus. Then next Saturday you have Lane. It's listed as Birmingham, so I wonder if they're going to play that at Birmingham Southern over there, where they have the arena now purchasing that university. So I'm interested in terms of that location. Are they going to play it over there at the State Fair, which they do as well? Fairfield is the home gym. So I'm interested in that matchup a little bit, but particularly over the next 2 weeks, I think this is fascinating. When you go on the east side, you have Clark Atlanta sitting at 13-5, Allen at 11-5. We have to wait until the last game of the season to see if these teams will jockey back and forth, or will Allen keep just enough distance to be able to maybe play for it all in that last game. It's only one time they play each other. So whoever gets that certainly will be in good positions to lock everything up, because Clark Atlanta sits at 7-3 in the conference play, while Allen is at 6-3. With that being said, I'm going to go back to you, Mike, and give you what has your interest, what's going on in the West in terms of the matchup over the next 2 weeks, or just easing things out with Clark Atlanta, as they seem to kind of control things and just wait until the end of the season to see that matchup. Which direction are you going?
Oh, first of all, I would say that if you look at the West, I would agree with you that if you look over the next week or two, I want to see how those matchups, play out. Because you look at it, Miles, they will have Tuskegee somewhere around the 25th weekend, and they play Lane. I want to see how they head-to-head. They're neck and neck, all three. Miles is 8-2. Lane is 7-3, Tuskegee at 6-4. I think the records at this point in the season, if you look at where we are really close. So I want to see how that matchup. I think Tuskegee has Miles, as you may have alluded to. And before I want to really opine on that, I want to see how those matchups run. The other thing is, we look at Clark Atlanta 7-3, but we look at their matchups, and I believe they have an earlier loss against Lane, and Lane in the South is like it's in the West. I'm sorry, it's second place. So I want to see how Clark Atlanta can make it. Yes, they're number one in the East, but they have a key loss against Lane College earlier in the season. And then the other point that I'll make, I always go back to statistics. And I mean, if you look at it, I mean, it's Clark Atlanta up there, but until they play another, maybe a couple of other like Miles Lane, those colleges, I want to see where they fare. Because I think sometimes with the SIAC, strength of schedule, who you play, when you play them matters. And so I think the next week or two, I'll be able to better opine on how these colleges weather. I would venture to say that maybe what I'm seeing statistically and head to head, you may have an edge maybe in the East, but that's just Big Mike. I'm sorry, not in the East, but the West.
Good stuff there. As I told you, Miles is the red hot. They're 8-2 in their last 10, but Clark Atlanta and Allen are 7-3 in their last 10. So which direction do you want to take, Dave, in terms of what has more of your interest? The next 2 weeks, as I said, with the West, or are you just looking forward on down the road when you have that last game that's going to feature Clark Atlanta and Allen out of the West, out of the East, I should say?
I'm fascinated to see if Lil old Allen can keep this up in Columbia. Like, I'm fascinated to see if they. I'm serious.
Yeah, you're right. That Allen and Benedict matchup rivalry makes it really interesting. I'm glad you caught it.
Yeah, I want to see if they can keep it up because they got a legitimate shot to win the East. Because like Mike said, with regards to Clark Atlanta, they probably haven't really played anybody yet. So it's going to be interesting to see if Allen can continue this and keep this up, and if they have a legitimate shot to be the top dogs in the East, so to speak.
Good stuff. Let's go to the men's side of things, looking at their standing. Just like the women, Clark Atlanta is at the top. They had that matchup with Edward Waters. They're fighting each other, and a good mix where you had Clark Atlanta 8-2 in their last 10, just like you see similarly with Miles on the women's side. But you have Edward Waters that is 7-3 in their last 10, and Albany State, as Mike would make sure we say, 7-3 in their last 10. And you have Clark Atlanta 8-2 in conference, Edward Waters 8-3, Albany is 8-3 as well. And so they're all in the mix, 11-6, 12-6, 11-7, respectively, between those three teams in the East. So fascinating what's going on in the East. It's pretty deep. Even more houses in the mix, and they can beat anybody any day. You saw what they did up there at Howard, which has everybody joining on them at Monday night and Tuesday in terms of what that looks like. I would like to give an update in terms of Clark Atlanta. They did win that game at Edward Waters 63-61, so that was a big win by the Panthers going on the road to get that done. On the west side, you have Miles. They are just crushing folks. They're 9-1 in their last 10. They look at the cream of the crop. Remember, they won it a couple of years ago. Obviously had that loss to Clark Atlanta when Clark Atlanta finally got it done in the tournament. But it looks like Miles may be back for a little bit of revenge, and they're taking it out on the West Division until they have a chance to make a statement in the tournament. They are 13-3 overall. They sit at 10-1. The next closest team is the rival Tuskegee that are 3 games back, sitting at 6-4, just 8-8 overall. So looks like the West is pretty much locked up. Tell me if you see it differently, David. It looks like all the fun is in the East.
Yeah, that's the fun division. It's the East. The West, the West is locked in, man. Miles is out here dominating everybody. They got a 3-game lead in the conference, and the closest one after that, it's 6 games on the West side. So Yeah, it's miles and everybody else in the West.
To your point. Wow.
No. It's the West, and it's miles and everybody else in the West. Now, the East is very fascinating. That's where you want to watch your games, and you got Morehouse out here to beat Division I opponents too. I want to pick on my brothers in the MEAC, but I'm gonna try to be nice today. I'm gonna try to be nice. They out here losing to SIAC and CIAA programs. So, but Hampton did too. So can't kill him too much.
Mike, save him. David is he's throwing his balls. Mike, where you going? You like the East Division is 3 deep. Some may even say 4. If you added Morehouse, muck it up. Or Miles just doing the single dance as they.
No, I agree with that. That East is mucking it up. You could argue that Clark Atlanta is doing the thing.
You said they're doing nothing but.
But man, I mean, seriously, they let a goose egg against Savannah State, which is like down in the middle, and then you have Edward Waters. But here's the deal: Edward Waters who did they just beat? They just beat Howard, right? Shock the world, print the papers, all of that good stuff. What was that? Just whatever. No, I'm sorry. They just beat Clark Atlanta, Edward Waters, just a couple of days ago. So any team can beat any team in that top 4. You look at Miles. Miles is doing the thing, and their defense is phenomenal. I did have a chance to see them play. So, and they have wins against Savannah State, Benedict, Edward Waters. They did lose a game against Red Hot Morehouse, or you could argue Morehouse at the time. But you could argue, but I think that game was overtime, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong, keep me honest. It was an overtime loss against Morehouse. But other than that, Miles is red hot. They're running it. I don't see another team. They're also leading the conference in defense, and that we know travels to different sites. It travels through the tournament. So to me, the pretty lady, Miles, right now, until proven otherwise.
You're correct. That was their lone loss was to Morehouse on the road in Atlanta. An overtime loss, 77-75. So you hit it right on the noggin. With that being said, let's take our third and final timeout. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll travel from the mid-major out of the NCAA Division II. We'll talk a little bit about the NIA side of things and give you some updates of what it looks like there. We'll travel and give you some updates on the Red River Athletic Conference, Sooner Athletic Conference, the Sun Conference, and then focus on the HBCU AC, the all HBCU conference as it would be. With that, let's take our third and final time out. We'll be right back after this break. Get into that mix a little bit. Then we'll tie it up in a bowl with some of these independent update with the scores and tell you what's going on. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Looking for the ultimate cultural experience of 2025? The Zora Outdoor Festival of the Arts is where you need to be. From January 31st to February 2nd, Eatonville, Florida will come alive with incredible live performances from the Levert Experience and the Bar Cave. Immerse yourself in interactive art. Shop from over 80 vendors. Take a journey through history with a new virtual tour app. And enjoy family-friendly STEM activities. Plus, don't miss the unforgettable R&B tribute to the legends, honoring talents such as Whitney Houston, Marvin Gaye, and Luther Vandross. This is more than a festival. It's a celebration of Eatonville's rich cultural heritage. Visit zorafestival.org for tickets.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted CAVIL'S voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'S Voice, CAVIL'sVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with David and Mike, Big Mike that is. I got a matchup for you. Check this out. We're going to go in the Red River Athletic Conference. Xavier is the team to talk about when you talk about NIA. They're undefeated right now at 18-0. 15-0 in the conference race, ranked top in the nation. But this Saturday, they face LSU Shreveport. And Shreveport is 15-3 overall, but 14-1 in the conference race. So that's a big matchup. It is on the road. So can Xavier find a way to get it done? They continue to play some really good basketball on the women's side. Want to make sure we shout them out because they are red hot. 18-0. You can't get better than that, literally. What are your thoughts in terms of Xavier, in terms of the basketball they're playing right now? And this key matchup this Saturday to see if they can keep things going. Go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, David. Jump in there.
I haven't watched too much of them, but I've heard the stories thanks to Herb, because Herb is the basketball guy from that standpoint. But one thing is,
shout out to Herb on HBCU Basketball Nightly, doing this thing with you all on HBCU Nightly on Sunday nights.
Yeah, the show's back. It went live on Tuesday. So overall, I think it's good to see. I hope they keep it up. I think they got a legitimate shot to win a national championship if they keep this up. So I'm loving to see it. It's similar to what Langston did on the men's side last year.
I think you had a chance to make a major statement to your point, to really say what they're going to do nationally in that tournament. And it starts this weekend with LSU Shreveport that is playing really good too. And Shreveport at home really wants to find a way to get this done and end that streak. Mike, where are you in terms of this matchup?
Yeah, I agree. I think if you look at their output in the streak they're on, you don't know about their defense, but the offensive output alone and the way the team plays, I think they got a good shot in this tournament. So I would give them way north than a puncher's chance to really go forth and do well in this tournament.
I can't wait to see what they do in this tournament. I think it's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like. They continue to climb up those polls, the Golden Nuggets, in terms of 21st in the nation as they get it done. I'm surprised that they're actually ranked that low. But top 25 as it is. That being said, let's get over here a little bit and talk about what they're doing in the Sooner Athletic Conference. You have Langston HBCU program on the top of but we're used to talking about the men. Last year at the end, we started seeing that the women were for the real deal, but they started things off well this season. They're 17-1 overall. They have a 13-game win streak, and they're sitting at 8-1 when you talk about on the road. So they win no matter where they're at. They're 5-0 at home. They're 13-1 in the race. They have Wayland Baptist behind them at 13-2 that they beat a couple of weeks ago, like 69-60. They just beat a Mid-American Christian that sits at 12-3, so they are in control of their destiny with the two nearest teams to them at the top of the poll. They just defeated over a couple of weeks. So they can go on a run and really stretch things out. Fascinating when you talk about the Langston Lions women's basketball program as they're back in the basketball business for sure. And they're going to look at that Xavier. Boy, that would be an interesting matchup to see Xavier and Langston play at some point in that NIA tournament, particularly if you can get them down deep in the 16 round or something like that. Maybe the final 8, as they talk about at the NAIA level. fascinating to see what could be. But at this point, what are your thoughts about this Langston Lions, Big Mike?
Wow. First of all, we are still talking about men's, right?
No, this is the women.
Because the men,
well, men are doing it too. We're gonna give them a little.
The men are doing it too.
We're used to the men, but that's what's fascinating.
The fact
that's
that they
one
got
of the things that we talk about this year that I want to point back out is how many teams have basketball programs, both on the men's and women's. Can you imagine what that looks like with a lot of these NIA Division II conference still playing the doubleheaders? We've seen now the SWAC go away from that. Colonial, Coastal. You've gotten used to seeing A&T, Hampton play on different days as the women play on Friday, Sunday. The men play on Thursday, Saturday, in terms of what that looks like. But at the Division II level, NIA level, you still have the double headers throughout the season, particularly on Saturday, which you have still in the SWAC. But you have basketball programs such as Clark Atlanta on both sides. Miles has basketball programs, both sides, men's and women's. Langston basketball program on both sides. Xavier basketball programs on both sides. Florida Memorial basketball programs on both sides. So it's easy to mix it up like that, Mike, when you talk about both teams playing really basketball. But go in for the women as you were.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm kind of like I was with Clark Atlanta, a little bit different. I mean, Clark Atlanta's leading in both the men's and women's and SIAC, but Langston, to me, this appears to be a little bit more legit. Both are undefeated at home, and both have a phenomenal away record. I think the women's record is like they have one loss, and I think the men have 2 losses on the road. You can't say the same to the other teams that have phenomenal teams in which both the men and women are playing. You look at the winning streak of the men's, and you look at where they fall. I think they won 8 or 9 of their last 10. And then if you look at the women, it's almost the same kind of story. So I kind of wonder what the hell is in the water? Just for example, and I'm being all serious. If you look at their defense, they're allowing 58, 55 points. They're scoring 75. That's a 20-point differential. That's big. That's bigger than what we saw in the CIAA, the SIAC in terms of point differential and what I'm allowing my opponent and what I'm playing. You look at their record at home, you look at their record away, and you have 2 strong teams, men's and women's. So that's why I'm wondering what the hell is in the water. They do have a couple of key losses, but if you look at their point differential, that's another thing that stands out. They're beating teams, on average, a point differential of, north of, I'd say, with a few exceptions, I'd say 15 points with a few exceptions, give or take. I think statistically it was like 15.2. And that's over the course of, 18, 19 games. Statistically, 13-1 total, 17-1. I'm sorry, I was right. 18 games. Statistically, their point differential is like, they're between games is like 18 on average at eyeball level. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball against quality teams, at least at this level. So they are here to stay. I just wonder what's in. I need to go sip some of the water in Langston because maybe I'll be good in a corporate room on the offensive defensive side. I'm just saying. But
I like it. Dave is shaking his head. He said that's too much. Since we're talking about Langston women and men, the men lost the last game against Mid-American Christian, but they still at the top of the conference, 15-3 overall. Langston is 11-3 in the conference race, a game ahead of Nelson that's 12-4, as well as Wayland Baptist and John Brown that are both 11-4 and 10-4 respectively. Langston men, Langston women, where are you going, Dave?
I shook my head because I pulled up the women's record and I'm looking at this like, oh my goodness, like they are out here doing what they need to do.
They're crashing it.
And it is amazing to see when both your men and women's programs are doing is at the top of their standings. Like it's a beautiful thing to see. And like you said, Dr. Cavill, it does not happen that often, but the women are doing it, They are, oh my goodness, 13 straight. They lost their first conference game and said, all right, we'll just rock the rest of these. We'll just do what we got to do over here. That's incredible.
Good stuff. Let me give you these updates as we get ready to close and give you some scores as well. Florida Memorial men sit at 14-4 overall, 6-2 in the conference race as they are playing some good basketball. And then on the women's side, they are 14-2 and 7-1 in the conference race. Another double, if you would, in terms of men's and women's basketball, having some fun. Let's go over here to the HBCU AC and give you some updates in terms of standings there. When we look at the women's basketball, it's Stillman. They're getting it done 15-4, 10-1. That is in the East Division as the HBCU AC has expanded. On the west side, you have Dillard that sits at 11-5 overall and 8-2. Behind them are Tougaloo out of Mississippi, 12-7 overall and 9-3 in terms of what they get done in the race there, if you would. Let's look at it from the men's side of things in terms of their records overall, just to make sure we give you updates on that side of things. Fascinating when you talk about what they're getting done with the standings over there. You still have Jalal Gibson getting it done in terms of the player of the week. He is balling every week, which means you have Tougaloo sit at 16-5 overall, 10-2 in terms of the race. Behind them, tied with them in a loss, Dillard's, but they only have 8 wins, but they have the 2 losses. They're 12-5 overall. That is the West Division. In the East Division, another men's and women duo is Stillman. They're getting it done in terms of both sides of the basketball as Stillman sits at 11-7, overall at 9-2. Behind them is Talladega, far behind with 3 games at 6-5, but they are 12-7 overall. That will give you a little bit of your updates in terms of what it looks like on that side of things. Just to tell you again, A&T sits at 10-7, 6-0 on the women's side, while Hampton, as we said earlier, is 0-6, 4-13. In terms of the independents there, Tennessee State women continue to struggle. In terms of them, they're losing 69-59 to Tennessee Tech at home. In terms of their record, they are 5-14, 1-8 on the season. To let you know, the men's got a victory that I watched the other day. It went to overtime, a big win by Tennessee State. The men, as they're trying to claw themselves back in the race, they're struggling a bit. They do have travel to Tennessee Tech today, so it'll be fascinating. Can they keep things going as they needed that big win at the 3, essentially at the buzzer to get it done for Tennessee State as they improve to 4-5 in the conference race. Again, they're 8-12 overall. Certainly needed to do it. Can't leave out Hampton in the Coastal since we shouted out A&T. We already know the men are struggling, but A&T losing now to Towson, 43-34. Hampton lost to William & Mary, 94 to 83. So in terms of standings, Hampton falls as they were trying to make some hay. They're 3-5. They got a big win over A&T, as I said on Monday, and it brought them to their second win, but now to their third win in the conference race, but they fall. So they're 10-10 overall on the season. When you talk about the rankings, as we said the other day, we did show love to A&T on the women's side as they are ranked number 2. Give them credit for that. But none of the independents on the men's side are getting it done. With that being said, that'll do it for us. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's DrKenyattaCavil. That's Facebook and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Dave?
Course.
Mike?
Lecture.
Dismiss.